I am so excited to share this episode with you today. This episode has been sponsored by the lovely Lorraine and Gavin from the Diamond Setter at the Pantiles in Tunbridge Wells. And you're soon going to find out why there's a huge link between diamonds and what we're about to discuss today with my fabulous guest. So let's talk all about energy, vibes, and how they enable us to have success in life. And with that, I'd love to welcome my lovely guest, Sasha Cameron, to the show.
Hello.
Welcome, Sasha.
Thank
Lovely
you.
to see you again today.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited about this.
I am so excited about the conversation we're going to have today. And I'm going to bring it over to you now to introduce yourself, your expertise, and then we can really get stuck into everything around vibes, frequencies, sexual energy, and what that means to us across our lives. So, Sasha, again, welcome, and tell us about your journey that brings us to where you are today.
Right. So where do I start? First of all, thanks for having me, because I think it's a subject that needs to be talked about more, because I think for now, the sound of sexual energy creates a lot of blushing and people going, oh my God, not here. But then in reality, it is something that drives life and drives our ability to create and move forward with whatever it is we're moving forward with. But to start with, I am the founder of Mind Syntropy, which is a clinic based on psychology, hypnotherapy, and mind-body connection. And so my specialty is to decipher signals that our body is giving us in shape of physical symptoms, illnesses, chronic diseases, and things like that. What has it been trying to say to us for a long time that we refused to hear, and then it had to come out in this physical and maybe very uncomfortable way for us to finally hear and do something about it. And usually I help people find a psychological root cause of these symptoms or problems. And miraculously or not so miraculously, they heal or at least reduce the symptoms.
And what are some of the symptoms that your clients might come to you with, that anyone listening might resonate with, that we perhaps think is just normal day to day and we've conditioned ourselves to live with, but actually it doesn't have to be that way?
Yeah. So my most successful one is the lady with thyroid problems, and she's been on medication for, I don't know, maybe 30 years. And she came to me for 2 sessions. And after the first one, we found what it is she was holding on to, what it is that needed to be screamed out. And then she went to the consultant, and consultant did a blood test, and he was shocked to see the difference in her blood work. And he basically reduced the medication level by half. And then after the second session, he took her off medication completely. And it's one of those things that are really measurable, and that a medical professional confirmed that whatever it is we're doing makes a big difference. Another one, okay, so that one was about things that she never had a chance to express, like the anger and the way she was treated by a teacher back in childhood. And all we had to do is just scream that out and tell that teacher
So it's almost just taking them back to the point where they didn't have the voice to deal with it, and retrospectively take the action.
And give them that voice.
And give them that voice.
Permission to express that, yeah. Another common thing is skin problems, so eczema. And a lot of the times it's like, oh, it's just something you have to live with, be on medication for the rest of your life. But skin is that number one contact with outer world. And it says so much when things happen to it. It means that we're either trying to repel something in the world, or we're trying to create more potential for physical touch, or we're trying to create a barrier between ourselves and the world. So the body is really metaphorical, and the way it sometimes speaks to us, it could be really obvious, but then it could be very, like with eczema, for example, it creates that extra layers of skin between you and the world. So it could be interpreted as creating a barrier, creating more layers between you and the
Extra
outer world.
protection
Extra
almost
protection
from the world.
but also
Interesting.
making you kind of undesirable by having this skin, like the red scabs or whatever it is, and making you kind of repel unwanted attention. But it could also be, it depends where it is on the body. So if it's kind of on the inner parts, where if you were to hug somebody, you would be touching that person. On the inner parts of your body, it would be that you long for more physical touch and warmth. So it's very individual, and it really needs to be looked at from the position on the body, from point of view. I don't know. I'm gone blah, 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 too much.
So what you're saying is that the external symptoms that we have that can often be physical and not necessarily just the way we react emotionally to things can very often be tied back to emotional things that we may or may not even be aware of. Obviously, what we're not saying here is for everybody to stop going on medication, and definitely consultation needs to be had with your doctor around anything in relation to that. But what's really interesting is that our body is so knowledgeable in terms of what it's doing to try and defend us, that often those symptoms is something that gives us an opportunity to reflect and kind of do a bit more investigation into what's actually going on. So to bring it back to the sponsor of today's show, we are both littered in beautiful diamonds. And apart from the fact that it's a great opportunity, and I think both of us are just going to swan off on a plane now somewhere. There is actually a connection between that, right? Because stones and diamonds and energy is very linked to the show. So what's your take on that?
Oh, I love it. But I think it's definitely diamonds. They have thousands, millions of years of experience in the ground. You know, they've seen it all, even though they're never going to tell what they saw. But they, again, bringing out that opportunity to shine. They give you the opportunity to shine, and it's okay for us to be seen. It's okay for us to be out there. So for some people, I think it would be a good idea to create some kind of artifact that is charged with your confidence, that's charged with your belief that you are worthy, that you are powerful, that you can do it all. And it's incredible what that one little piece of jewelry or whatever it is. I have these power boots, I call them, and I put them on. I'm a totally different person.
But actually, it's really that artifact, and in this case, we're using, because it links to it, diamonds. But we obviously don't need to litter ourselves with tens of thousands of pounds worth of diamonds to feel great. But actually, there's Todd Herman, who's a really well-known guy in the personal development space, and he talks about his glasses. He doesn't actually, or when he started wearing them, he didn't need them. It became like an anchor for him. So when he went into business mode, he would wear them. So anchoring the energy that you want into something physical can actually really help to raise that vibration. And today we just chose it in diamond form because of everything that you beautifully
and
put
also,
about the energy that they have.
If anything that we're saying that you don't like, just look at the diamonds and pretend nothing else exists.
And go and speak to Lorraine and Gavin at the shop, and they'll sort you out.
Definitely.
Okay. So taking us back to sexual energy, because a lot of the work that you do is with relationships and linked to sexual energy. But the point that you made earlier is that, and you're right, I think a lot of us would just think, well, what's that got to do with what this show's about? But actually that energy itself, it's about a life force. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So sexual energy, really, it's the life force that helps us function properly, that helps us be creative, and that helps us thrive. And it's the first thing that kind of switches off when we're in fight and flight mode. Because when you're stressed, when you're constantly in a survival mode, your body switches off. The three main functions is the digestion, the reproduction, and the breathing. So everything becomes really compacted. Your energy gets sent to all the vital survival organs, and everything else temporarily gets switched off. And if you live in that survival mode for a long time, then the effect on the rest of your body is quite detrimental. And sexual energy is, again, something that can only flow when you are in a life mode rather than survival mode. So when we block that, when we reduce the flow of it, then we end up creating, if we still push with the creativity, we create from our own resources, the resources that our body needs to function properly, for the organs to work properly. And so it's a very important marker of what state we are living in and if we're stuck in survival mode or not. And so if we're stuck in survival mode and if our sexual energy is blocked, then we, in nature and biologically, are not able to create anything, materialize anything, produce anything into this world because our main focus is just to survive.
So how would somebody know if their sexual energy is blocked? Because obviously from what you're saying, that is going to block creativity, which particularly for any business owners, but anybody in life, if we're operating from a place of survival, the body is obviously going to say, no, I need to just use the energy to survive. So we don't have time to be creative. So what, but how might somebody know? What symptoms might they be experiencing so that they know what to look out for and what they can do?
Yeah, I think most common one is where you do something and you take a long time to recover from it. So to restore your energy resources, because technically you shouldn't be doing things on your own flow, but it should be coming through you, this energy source that is kind of given to us by nature. But also it's struggle to come up with ideas and knowing what you want, like not having any desires, not having any belief in yourself almost, and kind of feeling that everything you do is a lot of effort and that requires you to pretty much put everything you got into the project that you're doing.
So a lot of people might describe that as the hamster wheel, right? When you're you're just like going round and exhausting yourself the entire time. And it's almost like all you're doing is treading water. Yeah. You're not actually getting anywhere. You're exerting yourself, but you're standing still. Would that be fair to say? That
you might not be standing still, but you're definitely depleting your body from the nutrients, from the energy it needs to run properly. So it could potentially end up in burnout or exhaustion or some kind of illness. You know, how we sometimes function, and then at Christmas everybody gets sick. So that's quite a good example of the fact that somebody's been functioning off the energy that they don't actually have.
And what causes somebody to get to that point?
I think in our world, we're so disconnected from our bodies that we live in our heads and we think that if we think it, it's all doable. But listening to what our body's telling us is really important. If you feel tired or if you feel like now is the time to slow down, now is the time to do something else. But then our head goes, no, I need to keep going. The deadline is there. It's when we ignore the signals, when we ignore the needs of our body.
That's quite tough to do because sometimes we know we're tired or depleted, but we have a deadline and we have children or we have responsibilities. And so how would you recommend somebody balances that so that they don't deplete their energy, but actually I think we'd all love to say, well, I'll just disappear off for a week, but the reality of life is we often can't. So what do you recommend to your clients?
Well, I think disappearing and taking extreme measures are not necessarily the best way, but it's definitely giving your body the basic needs: sleep, the regular eating, reduce the stress as much as possible, and even stress of like spending too much time on social media and constantly on the back of your mind comparing yourself to somebody else's success or somebody else's looks and things like that. We don't do it consciously, but it's still something that happens when we spend too much time looking at other people's lives.
So that's interesting. So it's not just the things that we're doing all the time, but actually the things going on in our head is depleting
Yeah,
that energy.
absolutely. Yeah.
So it's that mental exhaustion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just bringing it back to the energy side of things, because I know, I want to kind of really bring us deeper into kind
Yeah.
of conversation about what this means in terms of the vibes we're giving off. Um, so where does that energy live in our bodies?
Hmm.
And I know that you talk about chakras and things like that, which I think are often
Yeah.
associated with Reiki, but actually it's about where energy is stored. So where is the sexual energy stored, and what should we be doing to know whether it's something that we need to be focusing on?
Yeah. So it's one of the primal forces, if you can call it that way. And it's something that is stored in the lower part of our body. And it's considered kind of that slightly lower vibrating energy, but it's very filling for our body, to give it energy to then take things a bit further and into a more thought-based process. And original kind of source of energy is in our lower center, which is called the root chakra, or in Chinese medicine, it's called something else. They got more meridian-based system, but it's also very similar. And how that is responsible for the physical aspect of our body and our life, and how it connects us to the earth and the energies that come from there. And so that needs to be as a solid foundation, fully functioning, properly acknowledged by people. And then when that is full, the energy comes up into the Swadhisthana chakra, which is the orange, the next one up. And it's kind of projection of the womb for women, and for men it's kind of that area as well. And it's the excess from below that rises up and fills the next level. And then the excess from there rises up and fills the next level. So it's that solid foundation in the base chakras, the first three, that are responsible for our health, for our body, for our will, and our ability to control what we do with ourselves, like, the will.
So if it's not functioning from the base, from where it originates, then it's very difficult for it to do all of the things that we need to do it beyond that.
That way, every time we go into our head, when we're stuck in our head, it becomes very destabilized. The structure has no solid foundation, and we can easily, lose focus and lose track of where we're going and what our body is doing and feeling at the time.
So when you say when we go into our heads, what do you mean by that?
Like when we get lost in our thoughts and start thinking about the future, the past, all the things that we need to do. But then in that time, we sort of disconnect from our body, and we're not hearing the signals, the true wisdom that we need to be paying attention in that moment in time.
And what can we do to address that? So if anyone's thinking, yeah, I'm kind of in my head a lot, and I'm feeling burnout symptoms and all that, is there anything that anyone can do to start addressing and overturning that?
Yeah, of course. It's even simple things like exercise, because everything that requires focus on the body then takes you out of your head and into your body. And some people might use, I don't know, slightly more extreme measures like the sadhu boards, the ones with nails sticking out of them. I have a pair at home for extreme
Noted.
moments. And then you stand on that, and all your focus goes down into that area, and you realize that in that moment nothing else exists. Or you can also balance, kind of stand on one foot and balance, and that alone. So everything that requires a bit more effort and throws you out of your comfort zone, it really helps to take you out of your head and into the present moment, into your body.
That's interesting. Somebody the other day was saying to me that if you're feeling kind of in your head, and I think most of us can relate to what that feeling is, right?
Yeah.
And whether that's because we're overwhelmed or anxious or any of those feelings, that actually anything that can essentially distract the body,
Yeah.
which is what you're saying, and what she actually said to me was it can be effective to eat one of those like really, really sour sweets, or to stick your hands under like a really, really cold tap, because it just immediately almost shocks your body into, oh, hang on.
Yeah,
what's
here, I'm allowed.
this? And just that distraction, or as you said, getting outside for a walk, and things like that with nature in particular.
Yeah.
So it's actually really interesting you said that, because just a few days ago somebody was saying that to me, and I can kind of see that link of taking your body to a different distraction.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. And then we've talked quite a lot about the source of the energy, I guess, and where it comes from.
Yeah.
And where I'd love to kind of take this next is around how this affects the people around us. So we often refer to it as kind of vibes, right? And
Yeah.
we will, I'm sure anybody that is listening to this will have an experience of meeting somebody and immediately even thinking, God, I really like that person. I can't really tell you why, but that they're just my vibe.
Yeah.
Or the opposite. Somebody might have said the right things, been perfectly pleasant and lovely, and you can't on paper say
No.
anything bad about them, but you just didn't get a great vibe from them.
Yeah.
And I know that there's a lot of different takes on that, but there's very much a kind of a scientific rationale around kind of this energy and vibes, which I'd love to kind of explore with you a bit more.
Well, definitely had this myself recently when I went on a date, and on paper the person was perfection, but then actually being near them was
Just so annoying, isn't
a
it?
sense of kind of like, oh no, never again. I think the reason for that is the fact that we don't have 5 senses in our body, but actually have 34 that are officially recognized by neuroscientists. And but the first time I ever came across this, I was reading Rudolf Steiner's book on psychology, and he has more spiritual take on it, combined with the classical psychology as well. And he was talking about 12 senses, and in both cases, the scientific and Steiner's take, the first and the most important sense is the life sense, and it's that feeling that something's not quite right. And it's the first one we get as babies, but also the main one that gets drummed out of us pretty much from birth. So as soon as the baby starts going, oh, crying, and the dummy's shoved in their face. Like, shut up, it's all good.
Or don't cry, right?
Don't cry, it's all good, it's all good. But then clearly something wasn't. And then later in life, when we adjust to environment that we're in, if our childhood was quite stressful and we didn't have the capacity to explore that sense and really listen to it, then it just gets numbed, and then eventually we don't believe it anymore. And it takes a long time to bring it back.
So is that why some of these, I mean, I guess this is something that didn't just happen to some of us from our parents. It's something that's been happening over, centuries, thousands of years. Because if you look at nature and animals, they act on instinct, right? They don't have a guidebook that's telling them where to go or anything. They are acting on something that we as animals as well have, but we have learnt over all of those thousands of years to overlook.
Yeah.
And in favour of that, we are kind of, I guess, more encouraged around those, like you said, the 5 kind of external senses.
Yeah.
So what are some? I'm not expecting you to list all 34 of them, but what are some of sort of the key things that we are overlooking? But importantly, how can we tap into them more?
So I think when it comes to communication with other people, is that what you would like me to go a bit deeper in?
Yeah, please.
I think with some of these senses are basically a biological protection that's been built into our bodies to sense the danger from somebody, to sense that somebody is not good for us, and maybe not necessarily in a relationship way, but are they depleted of energy? Does that mean that their immune system is weak? Does that mean that they're potentially carrying some kind of illness that we could get from interaction with them? Could it be that their life energy levels are so low that by coming near us, we're going to level out with them? They'll take out half of our resources in order to survive, and then we'll end up with not much left for ourselves, or like I don't know, energy vampires or something like
Yeah.
that. But surely everybody been in this situation where you come and meet with somebody and you come out completely empty and feeling like you just need to go and die in the corner somewhere.
Yeah. And it's a thing. And actually what
Yeah.
I've just thought is fascinating off the back of what you just said is that psychologically, I guess what you're saying is that
Yeah.
instinctively we are able to tell if there's somebody who perhaps is going to be that energy vampire or suck that energy for us or not be right for us, but based
Yeah.
on our own programming and psychological traumas, we might actually seek out that person because they almost fill a void that needs to be filled. So they might not be
Yeah.
right for us, but we keep making the same mistakes
Yeah.
over and over again. And I should add, this isn't just about relationships. This can be friendships. This can even be about how you select your clients. It's about relationships in general. And I think we can all sometimes say that there's been a pattern,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
So is that right to say then that sometimes what we're doing is ignoring? So our body might be subconsciously sensing a danger in somebody,
Yeah.
but that might actually attract us more because of the traumas that we might have. Is that right?
Yeah, I think definitely right, because our traumas are kind of there to be healed as well. And if we see somebody and we choose to interact with them, there's always a two-way contract. So we chose to interact with them for a reason. It might not always seem like we're going to benefit in any way from this. And in the moment, it might feel like, oh, we're just getting taken for a ride here. But in perspective, if you zoom out a little bit, that you chose that for some reason. This is your opportunity to see something in a different light. This is your opportunity to maybe put an end to this pattern that you keep repeating. But again, we just need to have the resources and the energy to clock it and to do something about it.
So that pattern, unless you do something proactively to break that pattern, the chances are we will keep repeating it. Because I guess we're programmed for safety to stay within the parameters of what we know.
Yeah.
So that might be seeking out or staying in situations that we know are uncomfortable, but uncomfortable, if we know what it is still better than the unknown. So to break that, I guess that's where that intervention comes in, of actually getting to the root of what might be driving that.
But also I feel if it's something that keeps happening to you, then the radical responsibility is an amazing healing tool, is to take responsibility that you are the one choosing this on a regular basis. Why are you doing that? What can you do to stop it? Or is this going to be the last one? Are you going to put an end to it with this interaction by actually doing something different with it?
And what can give somebody the strength, I guess, to say enough is enough? And this can be across the spectrum. It might be like a really traumatic experience somebody's in, but it could just be somebody listening that says, I literally keep attracting the wrong clients. It's what can they do, like practically right now?
I think practically they could look at who that client or that person that keeps coming into their life really represents. And most of the time it's somebody like a parent from childhood that you've been trying to prove something to, that you're worthy of love or you're worthy of care, but and that you keep doing that in your life with your clients, with your partners. I think that's the most common thing that comes up. And usually when somebody goes into the same situation, it is something that comes from quite far down the line.
So it's just having an opportunity, and I would say trying to remove judgment from it, but just taking a lens on maybe just listing out kind of, okay, what is it that I'm disliking about whatever situation keeps repeating itself as a pattern, and just kind of delving a bit deeper, and the patterns are often there. And I think that's where it is obviously so enormously helpful to work with someone like yourself, because sometimes we can't see the wood for the trees, right? And
Exactly.
having
Yeah, we're
having
like,
somebody that can kind of take us, support us through that journey means that there can be a perspective
yeah.
that we might not see ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like sometimes we might be stuck in it so deep that all we can see is whatever's right next to our face. And having somebody to see the bigger picture and help you navigate out of it, definitely helpful. But I think again, it's making that choice for yourself and believing that you're worthy of something different. And because if you don't believe that you're worthy and you don't believe that you can do anything about it, then it's just going to keep happening again and again.
And you had an interesting take on this when we spoke before around that sometimes we actually intentionally, although often subconsciously, repel opportunities because of that lack of worthiness, right? So
Mm.
it's we can all have these that goals and desires and keep kind of finding roadblocks along the way, and
Yeah.
often that roadblock is ourselves, and if we look deeply, that kind of self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so can you just talk a little bit about that? Because I found that really fascinating in terms of that actually, although we think on a conscious level we desire certain things, we're actually blocking ourselves from it.
Yeah. So there could be several blocks, but the main one that I see on the most regularly is ability to handle attention, because it is for some people attention means danger. For some people, attention brings up the fact that they're not sure if they're worthy of what it could bring. For some people, it could be something that equals to pain or suffering, and it it often stops people from kind of doing videos on Instagram. The
Yeah.
simplest thing that doing that little talking head reel, but for so many people, it's death-like.
And what's so fascinating is and I'm preaching to the converted here, but
Yeah.
the response that is happening within us
Mm.
for doing, let's say, that social media video,
Yeah.
um, that fear response is exactly the same as the one we would have had, however many thousand years ago if we were being chased by a big dinosaur or something like that.
Yeah.
That fear response is the same. So we
Yeah.
evolved in so many ways, but that fear response is still the same.
Yeah.
Obviously, no enormous threat is going to happen off the back of doing a social media a
Mm.
video, but our body very much perceives danger in the same way. It doesn't kind of categorize it. It's just like fear, danger,
Definitely.
something
Yeah.
new. And in that context, it's you could be rejected by the tribe, you could be judged, and so all of those things.
Yeah.
And I speak to people all the time, and we've all had it. And it's a process, right, to sort of take
Definitely.
yourself through. And so in that particular context, if somebody was coming to you and they were saying, I have this vision for my business that it might be the founder, for example, and they know how important visibility is, but they
Yeah.
simply cannot seem to get over being visible. How might you work with somebody like that to enable them to? Because it's fine if somebody's just like, I just don't want to do
Yeah.
it. But some people do actually want to do it but can't. So
Yeah.
how would you help somebody in that case?
I think again here we would listen to the body, because the body is the ultimate source of wisdom, and it will take us exactly to where we need to go to
Hmm.
figure out what is stopping them. And that feeling that they initially get when they are imagining themselves pressing send on that or publish on the reel, um, that feeling will take us exactly where we need to be, exactly where that fear originated and where it got confirmed maybe once or twice, for them mm, to really act on it, to or not to act on something that they really need in their life, is because um, they're either worried that the whole world will see them and they'll be exposed too much, or that they will be judged by somebody who they don't know and they will have to respond to that somehow, or like unwanted attention to their looks, for example, for people who maybe experience some kind of sexual traumas, or when somebody came to me recently and going, talking about the not wanting to be seen with their sexual self or their sexual self because of the experience they had in their internship, how some boss that grabbed their bum when they were wearing a really not really sexy even, but just a nice dress, and they were seen as a piece of meat rather than the person that has value.
And it's amazing how the mind and the body holds on to what can be a micro
Yeah.
moment, and it can impact us in ways that we wouldn't even
'Cause
realize.
anything that's similarly emotionally charged or that could bring potential outcome, our body goes, whoa, whoa, whoa. We've been there. No, we're not going there again. Because remember the pain that it caused us that first time. And unless we reprogram that or remove that block, then it'll just keep happening, and it will require so much effort to break through that to actually get anything done.
And in that that pursuit of comfort, and this isn't necessarily around the social media
Yeah.
example, but where we are looking to be around people that that perhaps make us comfortable, you've got a really interesting take on what this means in terms of the balance that's
Yeah.
where you kind of almost your your energy is given to someone else.
Yeah.
Can you talk a bit about that? Because I find that really fascinating.
Yeah, laws of physics work in a similar way as the laws of energy and exchange. And it's kind of the communicating vessels principle, where if you have two cups and they're connected and the water flows from one to the other, they will level out to the average in between them rather than, one going up to the same level as the higher one. And with energy, it's the same, that once you establish a close connection with somebody by either agreeing with what they're saying or trying to come up with a great solution to their problem or become emotionally involved with them, then you establish that little tube that connects your energies together. And in the end, it's the same principle of communicating vessels, where they will not raise their vibrations to yours, but yours will be lowered so that you two match exactly the same.
I just find that absolutely fascinating, because there's a difference between raising your vibrations to a point where somebody, and this again can be across the board, will be impacted by that and be encouraged to raise theirs as well, versus what you're saying often happens, which is you're not raising your vibration, you're almost acting as a lifeline for that person.
Pretty much.
Because with the best will in the world, you're trying to support or help them, but what you're actually doing is depleting both of your energies. So what can somebody do in a situation like that to like, if you're with somebody that you do want to help, but at the end of the day you're going to deplete both of you, you're not helping anyone. So how can you keep your vibration high and maybe encourage that person to match you versus going the other way?
See, I'm quite brutal in this.
I love
case.
brutal.
I just tell them to fuck off.
Okay.
And
So
because
you cut them off. Wow.
you cut them off or you charge them lots of money for your advice. There are two options.
Well,
Because
you
it
can
needs
do
to
that,
be
but,
decent exchange, But even in your case as well, what do you mean by helping relatives, or what would be a scenario?
You're absolutely right. In the context of work, I think there is a point at which a client, and when we are overgiving or when they're over asking.
Yeah.
And I think having those boundaries, and I don't think it's something that any of us do initially, but you soon learn where to put them.
Yeah.
I guess with relationships, one can choose to end a relationship. Some relationships, if it's family,
But
perhaps you can't.
in the relationships, like a romantic relationship, let's say, because that's probably what people mostly are interested in. And if you go for someone's potential rather than what really is there, and I've done that, my mistake myself, and I know exactly what it's like. And you see the potential in the person, what you would do if you were them, and you think that that's what they are going to do, and you spend your time, you spend your energy, you spend hoping that your energy, hoping that they will get there at some point, but they probably never will. So it's the choice from the very beginning. Is this relationship going to be a contract because we are, again, you can laugh at this, are we filling each other's hole? Are we, oh, how do you say it in a different way? Are you filling each other's voids that are
Not sure
there?
I said it better.
Filling the cracks in it. But are you basically, yeah, so are you there to prop each other up and sort of wobble down the road? Or are you two stable people, grown-ups, responsible for their own lives and are happy to walk side by side? And those are very different kinds of relationship. The first one, yeah, you will end up leveling out to the average of the both of you. And one definitely will be depleted, and then the other one will somehow slightly go up a notch, but not enough to actually make any difference.
I think it's such a great analogy, and I, for one, have this kind of visual image now of those cups, and I think that I could probably think that I would apply it if I'm speaking to somebody and thinking, hang on a minute, is the water coming out of my cup into yours? Because if so, how am I getting that back? So it's I just think it's a really interesting way of explaining kind of how that works and how we all as grown-ups need to be empowered, and we can help people, but it needs to be helped in a way that isn't taking our own energy and vibe away from us.
But the need to help with this, like, we want to help that person. That's a contract, isn't it? So you are getting something out of that too, like some sort of fulfillment feeling that you're a hero. So it's not just them taking, you're also getting something out of this. But do you need that enough to be prepared to level up with them?
And
not. And it's a choice. You can make that choice because in the moment, maybe that's something you need. Maybe that's experience you need to have in your life. But then if you blame that experience on the fact that you don't have energy, then it's a choice you've made.
It's it's so interesting, and it's having that self-awareness of am I actually really doing this to help that person, or am I doing it because deep down that's meeting a need in me to be that giver?
Because also, sorry, I keep interrupting. That if you feel like helping that person is starting to really affect your own life and your own ability to get anywhere, then that's when you can make another decision to end it there, or to create distance where you're no longer exchanging that energy.
Yeah. Sasha, I feel like we could talk about this for so long. What I'd like to do is take us on to the final section of the show, where I ask you to put your word for success into the cocktail mix and what you would put on ice into the ice bucket. So I'm going to hand you 2 pieces of paper for you to write your words and just explain to us what they are.
So, success.
Please.
So success for me is feeling content.
Okay.
Not having the emotional roller coaster going on all the time, but feeling like really smug about the fact that I got it. It's all good. It's going my way. So that's the word.
Because roller coaster is a dangerous zone. You can have these like amazing highs, amazing, incredible days, and then the next one, because of how our minds work, you kind of need to balance it, right? So if you have a really high day, the chances are the next day you're going to have a come down, just like if you were on drugs. And it is like being on drugs, because the high that you're getting is the drugs in your brain, right? So the next day, so having that baseline of contentment, and I like that you've explained that, because I think a lot of people could think, well, content isn't good enough, but actually content is about having a baseline, so that you haven't got the highs and lows. Love it. What about what are you asking people to put on ice, stop doing?
I think valuing themselves low is definitely. So valuing yourself low.
I'll allow 3 words on this occasion.
I was it
No, I'm joking.
devaluation. Because that is the root cause of all problems that happen that people later complain about. Or how do I change this? How do I change that? But in essence, it's all about your permission. You permitted to get to that point. You permitted people to treat you that way. You permitted.
You get what you tolerate is the word that comes to
Yeah,
mind.
you get what you permit,
Yeah.
what you allow in your life.
And it's, I think, easier said than done to have great self-worth, but it is definitely something that can be worked on, especially if you can identify that you don't have that and you're prepared to kind of put the work in to figure out where it came from and put the work in. And it's like everything, it's not something that changes overnight.
No, definitely not. It's something that can be changed and can be worked really, not really quickly, but relatively quickly. And the difference that it will bring into one's life is immeasurable.
Sasha, if anybody wants to know more about you, how can they find you?
So you can find me on Mind Syntropy, mind-syntropy.com. That's my website. And on Instagram, also Mind Syntropy. And you can ask any questions. You can book a session with me and listen to this podcast, of course.
Fabulous. I will make sure, obviously, that we link all of that into the show notes. And thank you so much. It's been fascinating. And I know it's one that we'll continue talking about. But I love that you've been able to summarize kind of how important it is to think about those vibrations across life and how they translate to success. So thank you so much, Sasha, and hopefully see you soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you'd subscribe and share it with somebody who's building things their own way too. This show exists to challenge the default path, to mix things up and create a brand, a business, and a life we actually want. Thanks for listening. See you next time.